Organizations with 25 persons or more are required to pay that minimum wage. But where are we in terms of labor matters across the country? Our unemployment figures are still high, and maybe that's just the new minimum wage signed into law might just be one little victory in the midst of so many, hurdles to cross where labor is concerned in Nigeria. To discuss some of these issues this morning, we have with us the Minister of Labor and Employment. Is it productivity now? Sometimes this
productivity and building employment.
Yeah. You heard his voice already. He is Dr. Chris Ngige. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, Mabe.
So I think that's a question I'm going to ask you.
Yes.
Unemployment figures are still worrisomely high. We're looking at close to 40%. What are we doing to tackle this figure and bring it down?
Well, what I have to tell you is, first and foremost, that job creation is not only for the government. You don't leave it only for government. It's not the government that creates all the jobs. As a matter of fact, most of the jobs created are supposed to be in the private sector. But in Nigeria, we have an obtuse arrangement here. And everybody is looking for white-collar job. You have gradations in the job contents.
So yes, indeed, sorry to interrupt you, Honorable Minister, but yes, indeed, government would not create all the jobs, and government cannot create all...
create the enabling environment.
Yes, exactly. Government will create the enabling environment.
Yes.
How is government doing that in our current context?
Well, what we've discovered when we came is that the economy wasn't good. An economy where oil was selling at $116 a barrel, 2.2 million barrels a day for many years, and yet they had no savings. They didn't save for the rainy day. An economy with that kind of aggregate sales, and they were consuming foreign food, importing everything they needed. So we did a food security arrangement. Bifocal, bifid, it gives you a bifid effect. Rice production, we tackled agriculture, it's the low-hanging fruit. That's the best we could do immediately. And luckily, the seasons have been good in Nigeria, rains have been there. We have arable lands that you just throw a mango out, the mango seed you finish eating, and it grows, germinates. So the government went into agriculture, started encouraging farmers, and thank God, the Central Bank of Nigeria was very, very good, because the Bank of Agriculture had some problems. The Central Bank filled up the gap immediately, put up so many programs. The common one known by people is the Anchor Borers program. With the Anchor Borers program, rice production was given the much needed push. Sorghum, other cereals were tackled. And today we are at 90% local content on rice. And what has it done?
You talked about low-hanging fruit. Some people will say, since you decided to start from the last administration, this low-hanging fruit was something started by the last administration.
We didn't see it.
Wasn't it?
We didn't see it when we came.
In fairness to the Minister of Agriculture, he said he saw it, and he was continuing from there.
Well, when we came, everything was prostrate on the ground. We didn't see it. So maybe Chief Adobe saw the papers. Yes. But the practicality, the execution was being done by us. And the central bank came and started giving out money to farmers for labor, insecticide, fertilizer, the milling of the rice and everything. That area alone has created nearly 8 million new farmers.
Minister, we will have to take a break now. I will ask you when we come back from this break, what impact that has had on the figures? Why do they still seem to be just as high as they were, if not higher, after this government came into power? In just a moment, please stay with us. Minister of Labor and Employment is still with us in the studio. And just before we went on break, I did say that we'll ask what impact some of the measures he's laid out, what impact has it had on unemployment figures? Why do they still seem to be rising in spite of all that he says government is doing? Can you answer that question?
Yes, and I did tell you that these programs have yielded a lot of fruits. If you go to the agric belt of Nigeria, if you go to Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, you come to Anambra, the agric area of Anyamelu local government, you go to Abakaliki, you go to Enugu, Zowani. You go to Ogun State and Kebbi, I forgot to tell you, rice production created new group of millionaires, the farmers. And there's the backward integration of the rice mills, the jute bag manufacturers, and the rest of them all. A lot of jobs have been created in the neighborhood of about 8 million now. And I'm telling you that those who are saying...
Which is really one area, I mean, we have to... Which is one area where a lot of Nigerians will say, at least I have tasted, you know, Nigerian, made in Nigeria rice. Some Lagosians, for instance, to talk about Lake rice, the collaboration between the Lagos state government and the Kebbi state government.
You don't like it?
But there is a problem, you know, with smuggling and importation, which even some members of this government have complained about. The Minister for Agriculture the other day was before the National Assembly, and he was talking about how some Nigerians are still importing pizza into this country. And, we still have all manner of issues with regards to agriculture. However, there are other areas. I mean, agriculture is one area we can focus a great deal on that, but there are other areas. Because I was asking you, while it seems that agriculture seems to be opening up, it would seem that other places are closing down. Manufacturing is one, it's still not where it ought to be. People are still losing their jobs. And I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah.
And unemployment figures, I'm looking at the figures for 2017 here. It was at 16.5%. 2018, we understand it went up to as much as 30%, between 30, some even figures put it at 36%, almost 40%. You have
for
to
an
ask,
economy that
what
went into recession,
As Minister of Labour, what did you find was the problem? Was it an issue for you?
It was an issue. It was an issue, and that was why we did an advocacy and told people not to look at only the white-collar jobs. There are blue-collar jobs, skills. You have to train your hand. You have to do plumbing, carpentry, tailoring.
What policies did you come up with in this regard? In
this regard, we had to do the vocational skill policy. NDE, one of my parastatals,
National Directorate of Employment.
Correct. They have at least 3 or to 4 vocational skill programs. These are direct ones that they fund.
Programs, not schools, not technical.
No, we have vocational schools. We have skill centers all over the place. We have what we call our specialist skill centers. We have in Lagos, we have in Ibadan, we have in Kaduna, we have in Bauchi, we have in Calabar, we have in Warri, we have in Enugu, we have all over the federation. But we now have mini in collaboration with the state governments. We send them people to train them. And people come in there as apprentices, and after we finish with that, we empower them. But the problem is that, how many people are ready to come there and train? The Empower program is the same. We have an Empower build for teaching people motor, mechanical, autotronic, as it's called, and masonry, and the rest of them all. How many people are coming?
Are you saying that the response to those programs have been low?
Of course they are low. They regard those jobs as jobs that don't befit people's status. But it's not true. If you go to the civilized climate, America or Britain, and you ask that they send you a plumber, a company sends you a plumber, they will charge you in hours. And those guys make a lot of money. Even here in Nigeria, as we speak now, if you want to get a carpenter to come to a day's job in your place, you don't pay anything less than 10,000. You don't. If you want to get an electrician, it's about the same. So we are telling people, counseling people that Going to do these jobs doesn't make you infra dig person. No, it doesn't. But here, everybody wants a collar job. They want to stay in the air-conditioned office. They want to work in the bank or a company, and nothing less than that.
Yeah,
I agree with you quite clearly that the industries have not picked up. I agree. But that's a problem associated with power, which the government is tackling. We are tackling power. A lot of problems, contraptions that have been entered into by the last administration have not allowed us to make much progress in power. The privatization they did, for me, is a nonsense. It doesn't make sense, the type of privatization they have done.
Oh,
and
the
so
Minister
the
of Power
discourse,
says that's the privatization we have, and we have to work with it. Let me ask you about,
yes,
you know, minimum wage, which some people might see as a small victory for perhaps Labour and yourself, considering the number of threats and counter-threats that we saw in that particular respect. What was the compromise?
Was there any counter-threat? We didn't threaten them.
What was the compromise which you eventually reached with them in terms of the challenges you thought you were going to have with implementation of the minimum wage?
Well, the federal government had no problem with the minimum wage. The minimum wage was overdue for renegotiation. The last one was put in place in 2011 by the Jonathan administration. So between 2011 and 2016 is a 5 years period. And the authors of that agreement made it in such a way that after 5 years it will be due for review. So as a federal government, we had no issue with it because the issue of minimum wage and labor is on the exclusive legislative list. But if we don't have problem with it, how about the state governments and the local governments, the other tiers of government? When we came in, 27 governments were not paying salaries of 18,000. They couldn't pay. So the president was giving the governors bailout funds. Bailout Fund 1, 2, 3, Paris reformed, and the rest of them.
So what was the compromise? I mean, what have you finally reached with the state government?
Well,
and then the effect is going to have along the scale.
There will be consequential financial effect upstairs. Because like I did explain at the public hearing, and we told Labour too, once you move people into 30,000, that 30,000 will come and fall on the present scale of maybe level 4, level 5. That's where it is. And even 6 in some establishment. Therefore, the people that are there, you got to move them up so that the other people will come and take that particular scale, financial scale. So, but these are things that can now be negotiated at where we call the joint negotiating councils of government. The states have joint negotiating council, the federal government have joint negotiating council, but we have a national joint negotiating council. It is at this point that you have labor representative and government or employers representative, and you then agree on what this will be. So the Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission now have to put out the circular saying that this is the national minimum wage, and then work out where it touches the different grade levels of government. The states have a valid point, because if you look at the federal component, we have outsourced most of the services on level 1 to 4. Cleaners, stenographers, security men, and the rest of them all. They have been outsourced to security companies. But a lot of states have not done that. So they have a preponderance of some of their staff there at that level. So they will now have to go to the Joint Negotiating Council and negotiate with their labor unions and agree on what will come upstairs. They will agree what is the level. You know, in the last regime, a lot of state governments made mistakes. When the minimum wage moved from I think 9,000 to 18,000, they went and started doing percentage increases, and that landed a lot of them into trouble. So this time around, Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission will fan out into the states and assist them in working out in the various joint negotiating council what the new rates will be. But overall, this will make for better take home for the Nigerian workers. And I think President Muhammadu Buhari should be congratulated, should be applauded for keeping to his promise, even after the elections.
Well, I'm seeing this message here from Annie Chibuzo, who says the Ministry of Labour is not honest about attendance of citizens into skills program. NDE trained and collected requests for grants and loans as they promised.
Yeah.
Since 2016 to date, no kobo has been given as grant or loan.
No, he is not being honest. The loans and grants that will come from it is not from NDE itself. NDE does what they call empowerment. The loans and grants that will come from there is NDE will erode you, assist you, make a CBN application, make a Bank of Industries application, and then guide you properly. As I speak now, the farmers in my local government, just before Easter, they got money paid into their cooperative accounts. And this time around, even they paid it into the different person's account in the cooperative. And it runs into millions. So maybe he has not done his homework, or he has not gone to the NDE office to be cancelled properly.
Honourable Minister, let me take you up on this one. You are a medical doctor by training.
Yes.
And you have seen, I don't know whether you're privy to what has been happening in the medical sector in recent times. There seems to be a brain drain in the medical sector. We understand that there are, embassies who organize, conferences or even opportunities that come to actively recruit medical personnel, for opportunities abroad. And a lot of our medical personnel in our hospitals, I know that you might say that this is under the Ministry of Health, but this is also under the Ministry of Labor. And for someone who is in the medical field, aren't you concerned that, we could be facing a crisis of, a shortage of hands in the medical field as we progress?
No, I'm not concerned at all. I'm not worried.
You're not?
We have surplus. If you have surplus, you export.
Yes.
It happened at one time, Indian teachers. I was taught biology and chemistry by Indian teachers in my secondary school days. They are surplus in their country. We have surplus in the medical profession here. I can tell you. It's my area. We have.
This is where we're complaining that we don't have enough doctors to man.
Who said?
Rural areas. There is not enough medical professionals. You say we have surplus? We
have enough. We have more than enough. Quote me.
So there is nothing wrong with all of these people coming to...
No, nothing wrong.
To come and...
They go out, they sharpen their skills, they earn money and send them back home here. Yes, we have earnings from them. We have foreign exchange earnings, not from oil. The Indians were doing it. Ceylonese, they taught me. Pakistanis, they taught me.
Are you abreast of what is currently happening in the medical sector?
How?
Honourable Minister.
No, I am.
I'm trying to see if I can get that article now. This was written a couple of weeks ago by a columnist.
Those guys go there, they are trained, they are better trained because of the facilities they have there. Eventually, I know some of them who have come back home with those facilities and opened up centers here. I know of my doctor in America. He has a facility in Imo State now. Has about 4 facilities in Maryland where he is practicing. And so you tell me that there's a brain drain. Yes, he has gone there. In fact, he left in the 80s, yes. We were medical school together. I know a couple of them. And they are setting up centers back home here. And in their centers, they have CAT scan, they have MRI scan, they have other scan, which even the government hospitals cannot maintain.
Doctor,
and so I don't see any loss.
We're talking about a brain drain.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, well.
You see, the drain is inimical. If somebody goes out to be a neurosurgeon abroad, and we don't have neurosurgeons here, We have Nigerians here.
Let's quickly go to Lagos now. Let's take a question from my colleagues there.
Well, Honourable Minister, I mean, it's been reported widely that Labour says that they're going to resist any chairman in NSITF if you do not inaugurate or ensure that Mr. Frank Kokori is the chairman of NSITF.
Come again.
What is going on in NSITF at the moment within the chairmanship of the board?
With the chairmanship of the board. Well, you see, it's something I don't like to discuss on the media. That's in the pages of newspaper. But the truth of the matter is that Labour made a recommendation for somebody to be chairman of NSITF board. It wasn't in the ambit to do so. We have an NSITF Act. The power to make recommendation to Mr. President or acting president for the chairman of NSITF board rests solely on the minister. The NSITF Act established a board with the federal government producing four executives, three executive directors and the managing director. It gives Labour 2 positions on the board, nominal directors. It gives employers association, NECA, under NECA, 2, making for 4. It gives the president, the government, the position of chairman to be filled on the recommendation of the minister. In fact, all have to come to me and I recommend to the president. But by tripartism and ILO convention, you don't choose for the social partners who is to represent them in any negotiation or who is to represent them on any entity. So it's like giving. Whoever they bring to me, I forward, unless that person has criminal record or anything. That's why we send them to the director, the State Security Department for screening. And once they are screened and they are okay, you put them on.
Honourable Minister,
made a recommendation.
Let me ask you this.
In this issue.
Let me ask you this question, Honourable Minister. One of the reasons that has been adduced for insecurity in Nigeria, one of the top reasons is unemployment. What's the plan to pull the people, the youth in the Northeast, into the employment market?
The youth in the Northeast?
Yes.
It's not only the youth in the Northeast, the youth in the Southeast too. That is why you see them doing IPOB in the Southeast. The youth in the Northeast, that's why they have gone into Boko Haram. We are trying our best. We are doing what we are supposed to do. We are bringing agriculture to them. We are bringing skill acquisition to them. We are, in fact, making them go to school. Because most of the people in this pool are people who are school dropouts. So these are the things we are doing. There is no gainsaying the fact that the rate of absorption into work is less than the jobs that are available, the few jobs that are available. So we are trying to create mass job. And this mass job, the easiest area for the mass job is agriculture. That's what we found out.
Well, we'll come back to this in just a moment and then interrogate some of those figures that you've given out about that job creation. That will be in a moment. Stay with us. All right, Honourable Minister, you were talking about job creation in the agri sector. Did you actually say that for that rice value chain that there's been newly created 8 million jobs?
Whether what? Come again.
Did you say they've created 8 million jobs as a result of this rice value chain?
Of course, yes. Yeah, the CBN has the statistics. The people giving out the loan and the people are supposed to pay back. And so they monitor everything that is in that chain. If you go up north, you see the rice farmers, their own cars now. They are the first to pay for Hajj. In fact, the president said he's worried that some of them are taking more wives. That is his worry about it. You come to Ebonyi, you see them too. They are all over the place. They're employing more hands in their farms. The rice mills, the jute factories have been established around, jute bag factories are established around. And more persons are working there. So the same goes for the Anyamelome area, where Koscharisa's is a big rice plant. You go to Nasarawa, Olams, you go to Kano, Olams, you go to Kebbi. A lot of jobs have been created in that area. So I think it's not only rice farming. People should embrace agriculture. You should embrace agriculture. Today we're doing sorghum and we're doing wonderfully well. Wheat, people should go into wheat farming. Other cereals, they are there, low hanging, so that people can earn a living. Government has lifted embargo on employment. We didn't put embargo on employment, but the other government did. But we lifted it and we're employing people as much as we can in the civil service. Our wage bill is rising. The personnel cost is rising. So this government is doing the utmost they can. They recruit people into the police force, into the armed forces, customs, immigration.
So while we're recruiting people there, you say that we have excess in the medical field, even though we're not meeting United Nations recommendations. Some people say, they say it should be a doctor to about 600 people. What we have in Nigeria, they say is about a doctor to about 7,000,
What was it
8,000
What was
people.
it before we came?
Is this about your government versus another government?
No,
or
it's
is
not
this about what is
my government
ideal for
business.
Nigerians?
No. You see, let's not compare apples and oranges. What I'm saying is that you say, am I not worried about the brain drain? I say I'm not worried. I'm not. Because even in the residency program that we have in Nigeria here, we normally put a place, a year or 2 years for overseas training, for people to go overseas and handle some of the sophisticated equipment we can give to them here. So when people go out and they're overstaying and practicing there and things like that, we have other people who are filling the vacuum here. It's a cycle, but some of them that have gone, they're coming back. I know those who have gone to Saudi Arabia, some of my teachers, they are back. They opened big centers here. Professor Herbulem, one of my teachers, opened a very big
so in the meantime,
here.
There's no cause for alarm. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. For me, I don't worry about that. I'm a medical doctor. I don't worry about that. What we need, what you need, for those people that have finished their NYSC, to embrace going to the rural areas and not hanging around.
And there is no plan by government to ensure that that happens.
What else will government do? We have incentive for them to go rural. Well, but a lot of them want to stay in the townships.
We will discuss this. I think that's definitely a topic worth exploring.
No, I'll come back for that.
This issue of brain drain in the medical sector and you know what government intends to do about it. That is, if it sees it as a problem in the first instance. But we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. Dr. Chris Ngige is the Minister for Labor and Productivity, and that's been our program this morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf.
Oh, yes, indeed. Thank you for watching as well. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I am Akine here saying have a wonderful day.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.